Welcome back to Sports Talk with Sam T. Today, we're going to be going through the entire NFC, predicting every game and every outcome from every NFC team. Now, if you haven't watched the first part of this already, or listened to the first part of this already, because it'll be out on YouTube, it'll also be on Apple Podcasts under Untitled Sports Talk with Sam Teets. If you haven't seen the first part where I predicted the entire AFC schedule, I suggest going back and looking at that. Because in the process of predicting every AFC game, I also predicted some of the games where every NFC team in the process is because obviously the AFC and NFC cross over somewhat. So there will also be some games that are already input here that maybe you missed out on if you're just watching or listening to this episode alone. So I suggest going back, checking that out. And if not, you can always fast forward to the end of this and check out to see what my final record predictions are for every team in the NFC. And I'll also probably briefly review my final record predictions for every team in the AFC as well. Keep in mind that I'm doing all this as I'm just sitting down. I'm going through it with you out loud. I'm going through it in my head. I have not pre-scripted any of this or any of the records. I'm just going into it with the general idea of what I want for every team, or I think every team will match up, and then just going through it game by game and predicting the records at the end. And of course, we're using playoffpredictors.com to help us out and to help us walk through every game and every matchup here. So I'm going to pull that up now. Here we are at playoffpredictors.com. If you go to my YouTube channel, by the way, just search Sam Teets on YouTube homepage. I'm basically the only one with that name. Just search Sam Teets. You can pull it up. You can go to my video and you can actually put this link in for yourself and see the actual Playoff Predictors page with everything input for yourself. If you go and just find that in the description of this video. But anyways, we're going to start off with the NFC North. The Green Bay Packers already have them sitting at 5-0. And we'll go through this every week now. Green Bay opens week 1 against the New Orleans Saints. It's supposed to be in New Orleans because of, I think it's Hurricane Ida. They're moving it to Jacksonville. Oops. So they're going to have to play basically in a way. It's still an away game. It's not necessarily a home game for the Saints here, though, because their fans have to travel to Jacksonville. Obviously, much closer to New Orleans than it is to Green Bay. The Packers still have to deal with heat. It's an entirely different situation now, but you don't have to deal with as much noise as you would playing in New Orleans, but you have to deal with the humidity of Florida. So it's going to be a very interesting game for them in terms of strategy and determining how they deal with all of those kind of issues that can happen, all the logistics, and even just being on the bench during that Florida heat. But I think the Packers are going to win this one. It's Jameis Winston's first game as like the full-time starter in New Orleans. I just don't think that they're going to be good enough right off the bat to go out and beat a team like Green Bay that has Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones. David Bakhtiari is not going to play, but they still have being able to move guard out to left tackle basically and play him there is going to be phenomenal. They have one of, like I said, most versatile offensive lines right now in the NFL. And for some reason, that guy's name is just escaping me and it's bugging me like insane. This guy had an honorable mention in my top 200. I can't remember his name. But anyways, they're kicking him out from guard to play tackle until David Bakhtiari returns. Defensively, they have Zadarius Smith, obviously. Rashawn Gary looked much better last year than he did previously. Kenny Clark, Adrian Amos, Darnell Savage, Jair Alexander. There's so much talent on Green Bay. They're not going to lose many games this year. And they're certainly not going to lose in week 2 against the Detroit Lions. That's an easy win. So start off 2-0. Then they're facing the 49ers at San Francisco. That could be a very interesting game, depending on who's starting at quarterback for the 49ers, depending on how the season's going for them. So I'm really up in the air on what I think the 49ers are going to be this year. I think they could definitely upset some very good teams. I'm just not sure they're going to be a consistent contender throughout the year. I'm going to give this one to the 49ers because there have to be some losses on the schedule somewhere for Green Bay. And right now, there are not a lot of them. So I have to find a few losses somewhere along the line. One of them is going to be to the San Francisco 49ers in week 3. They're going to beat Pittsburgh in week 4. They're going to beat Cincinnati in week 5. They're going to beat Chicago in week 6. They're going to, for now, beat the Washington football team in week 7. They're going to beat the Cardinals in week 8. I have them beating the Chiefs in week 9. This is from last episode where I predicted the AFC. I have them beating the Chiefs in week 9. And I'm going to have them lose to Seattle in week 10. So they're going to split that matchup. Between the Chiefs and Seattle, they're going to go 1-1 in that period of time in weeks number 9 and 10. Week 11 against the Vikings, I'm taking Green Bay. Week 12 against the Rams. Obviously, Green Bay beat the Rams in the postseason this past year. I mean, the Rams are going to be better this year because of Matthew Stafford's an upgrade over Jared Goff, even though the defense has lost some key pieces like John Johnson, like Troy Hill. I am going to take the Rams in this game. Again, the Packers have to lose some games along the schedule here. So we got them at 11-3 right now. They have their bye week in week 13. They're going to beat Chicago in week 14. They're going to beat the Ravens. Again, this is a prediction from the last video. They're going to beat the Ravens in week 15. They'll beat the Browns in week 16. They're going to beat Minnesota in 17. And they're obviously going to beat the Detroit Lions in week 18. So I actually have them sweeping their entire division. I'm going to go back and find one more loss, though, because they're at 14-3 right now. I think they're going to win 13 games. And the reason I'm going to go back and find their loss is because I have them beating Baltimore, I have them beating Cleveland, I have them beating Washington, and I have them beating Arizona and Kansas City. In all those matchups, there's going to be at least one loss along the line somewhere in all those matchups. I'm not really sure I want to change my AFC predictions all that much. If I give them the win against Baltimore, it vaults Baltimore in first place in the AFC North, which changes my prediction, which had the Cleveland Browns winning the division. And if I give the Browns a win, I'll take them up to 13-4 for the year. I think I'm actually going to give the win to the Washington football team because of their defense, their defensive front. I think the Washington football team is very much, again, another coin flip. I don't really know what they're going to be like. Actually, I can't believe I have the Packers losing to the 49ers and the Washington football team. Well, I have them sweeping Cleveland and Baltimore, but that's what it is. I had the Packers finishing 13-4 this year. Now on to the Vikings, who are already 2-5 based on the games we've predicted so far. Week 1, easy win against the Bengals. Week 2, I'm going to give them the win against the Cardinals, which is going to be a toss-up game. I think it's going to be very back and forth. I'm going to give them the win because I think the Vikings are going to have a more consistent defense, which doesn't say much because Arizona doesn't have a very good defense right now. I think the Vikings are going to be more consistent defensively, and they're going to pick up that win before losing in week 3 to Seattle, losing to Cleveland in week 4, beating Detroit in week 5, and then week 6 against Carolina. The Panthers are another team. I'm not really sure what they're going to look like because it's Sam Darnold at the helm. I'm not sure what Darnold's going to look like with new play calling, with the new head coach, with a lot more weapons than he had at any point in his career in New York. I'm still going to take Minnesota to win that game for now. So Minnesota goes into their bye week in week 7. They come out and they play the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to take Dallas in this case because I think Dallas is going to, at this point, have a healthy Dak Prescott and have the offensive firepower just to outscore the Vikings. Even though Minnesota has quite a few offensive weapons themselves between Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, who's still highly underrated, Kirk Cousins, who I think gets a lot of unnecessary slander. Those are really good top 4 players they have. Of course, Minnesota also recently lost Irv Smith Jr. for the year. I still think Dallas is just going to throw the ball too much. I think Dallas is going to pick up too many points and win that game. Week 9, I got Minnesota losing to Baltimore for obvious reasons. I have them beating the Chargers in week 10. And this is more of a game that I think it's going to be a toss-up for the Chargers because they are a very good young team. I think they will also have some hiccups in their first year with a new head coach. So I have Minnesota winning a game against the Chargers, which they're probably going to be an underdog. Week 11, I have the Packers beating Minnesota. Week 12, I'm going to give the win to the 49ers over Minnesota before they rebound in week 13, beat the Lions, then lose to Pittsburgh in week 14. I'm going to have them lose one of the matchups to the Bears this year. I think we'll split it. Chicago is home in week 15, so Chicago's going to win the home game against Minnesota in week 15. The Rams are going to beat the Vikings in week 16. The Packers are going to beat the Vikings in week 17. And Minnesota will close the year with a win against Chicago, putting them at 7-10 on the year. Even if I gave them the sweep over the Bears, it would still only be, 8-9. That's not going to make the playoffs. It just won't happen. I mean, look at the AFC. Just to give you a little bit of a review of what happened in the AFC. I had teams at 9-8 that didn't make the playoffs in the AFC. I had a team at 10-7 that didn't make the playoffs. I had an 11-6 team not make the playoffs in the AFC. So being 7-10, 8-9, the difference really doesn't matter because you're not going to make the playoffs either way. Chicago, it's a brutal start for the Bears. I already have Chicago at 1-8 before I even go in to predict any of the games. It's not going to help. Now, week 1, they play the Los Angeles Rams, which is a loss. I guess I have the Bengals winning week 2. That's a bit of an upset bid. I'll be interested to see if that actually happens or not because I don't really know. That's definitely a toss-up game. It really comes down to who plays quarterback. If it's Andy Dolan, or even if it's just because actually, I'd probably still favor the Bengals just because the quarterback situation is so volatile in Chicago right now. I don't know what Justin Fields is going to look like when he gets on the field. Week 3, Browns easily beat Bears. Week 4, Bears beat the Lions. Week 5, the Raiders I had beating the Bears. And Week 6, I had the Packers beating the Bears. Now you might wonder, what about Chicago's very good defense? Well, Chicago's very good defense was not so great this past year. The Bears have not been as close to being as elite as they once were in recent history. Eddie Jackson is no longer a top 10 safety in the NFL. He's not been that good since his All-Pro year. Khalil Mack is still a top 15 player in the NFL. That has not changed. He doesn't have a running mate. Robert Quinn was not what they needed last year at all. Kyle Fuller is no longer on the roster. Bryce Callahan is in Denver. He's been in Denver for a little while now. There's been so much changeover on that roster and that defense. Akeem Hicks has been hurt, and when he's been healthy, he's not been as good as he used to be. There's just too much of changeover in that roster, and the players that were good, who were holding that roster up, are aging or just are not in their primes right now, which is why Chicago is losing so many games. I don't think the Bears have an elite defense, which is why I'm comfortable having them lose to the Buccaneers in Week 7, and then I'm going to give them a win over the 49ers in Week 8 before they lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers in Week 9. You have your bye week in Week 10. The Ravens win in Week 11. The Bears beat the Lions in Week 12. The Bears, who are now 4-10, are going to lose to the Arizona Cardinals in Week 13, lose to the Green Bay Packers in Week 14, beat the Vikings in Week 15, lose to Seattle in Week 16. I'm going to give you a win over the New York Giants in Week 17, and then you're going to lose to the Minnesota Vikings at Minnesota in Week 18, bringing you to a grand total of 5-12. Now that might stink, and it does. But it's better than the Lions, who are already 0-11 in my predictions so far. I think the Lions could win honestly like 5 games this year. I think 5 or 6 is not really a stretch for Detroit, considering they get to play Minnesota twice, considering they get Chicago twice, they get the Bengals at some point, they get the Eagles at some point, along with Atlanta and Arizona. I think they really could win 5 or 6 games so far. It just has not bounced out that way in my predictions. Week 1 against San Francisco. We know Jimmy Garoppolo is starting Week 1. I'm going to pick the 49ers. They just have a better supporting cast right now than the Lions do. It's that simple. It's the same reason why the Packers will win in Week 2, the Ravens will win in Week 3, the Bears will win in Week 4, the Vikings will win in Week 5, and the Bengals will win in Week 6, and the Rams will win in Week 7. It's an 0-7 start for the Detroit Lions. You can't really blame me for this. The only game in there that could really win would be probably Week 6 against the Bengals. Bengals, by the way, I had going 4-13 this year. The other winnable game, perhaps Chicago, really would depend on who's the quarterback in that situation. Week 8, the Lions play the Philadelphia Eagles. That's going to be your first win of the year. It's going to be Jared Goff versus some combination of Jalen Hurts, Joe Flacco, and Gardner Minshew. Obviously, they're picking Jalen Hurts to initially start the year. We'll see if he's capable of holding on to the starting job for the entire length of the season. But the Eagles are not going to be good this year. Bye week in Week 9. Week 10, they lose to Pittsburgh. Week 11, they lose to the Browns. Week 12, they lose to Chicago again. They lose to the Vikings again in Week 13. Then they lose to Denver in Week 14. Week 15 is an interesting one. They get Arizona. Then they get Atlanta in Week 16. They're probably going to go 1-1 this stretch. I'm going to have them lose to the Cardinals and get a win against Atlanta. And again, that could really change depending on how each team is performing up to that point. If Arizona is already around 500, the Cardinals are probably going to win that matchup. If Arizona or Atlanta is just falling apart and perhaps it's already changed coaches, if you're Arizona, then maybe that can change things up quite a bit. But for now, I'm going to have them losing to Arizona in Week 15, beating Atlanta in Week 16, losing to Seattle in Week 17, and then losing to Green Bay in Week 18. The Detroit Lions are going 2-15 and picking towards the top of the draft next year. Again, for the record, the Houston Texans are also 2-15 in my predictions. That's the worst record in the NFL right now. Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is starting off 6-0 based on the games we've already predicted. I'm going to have them win at home against Dallas in the opener. The opener for the entire season, by the way, next Thursday. I'm going to have them beat the Falcons in Week 2, lose to the Rams in Week 3. I think the Rams are just a very tough matchup for the Buccaneers, just because of the defense and everything like that. It's a very good defensive team for the Rams. And granted, they lost their defensive coordinator, so maybe that changes. Again, John Johnson's no longer there. Troy Hill's no longer there. Things could change. But I do like the Rams in that matchup initially. And the Bucs have to lose to someone at some point along the line. Because I have them beating the Patriots in week 4, beating the Dolphins in week 5, easily beating the Eagles in week 6, beating the Bears in week 7, even though the Bears tripped them up last year. I have them beating the Saints in week 8. Bye week in week 9, I'm going to have them lose to the Washington football team in week 10. Again, I just really favor the defense there. And you can never tell what Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to do. He could have a 4-interception night and absolutely ruin this prediction. He could have a 5-touchdown night and absolutely make sure this happens. It just really is up in the air. Week 11, win against the Giants. Week 12, win against the Colts. Week 13, beat Atlanta. Week 14, you beat the Buffalo Bills. That's your marquee defeat or marquee win of the year. Week 15, I'm going to have them split with the Saints. I'm going to give the Saints one win just because I don't really know what to expect for them. They still have a lot of very talented pieces on defense. Michael Thomas will be back in action by this point. The offensive line is still very talented. We'll see how this all plays out. It really comes down to Jameis Winston at this point. Which, again, we don't really know what he's going to look like. Win in Week 16 over the Carolina Panthers. You beat the Jets in Week 17, and you beat the Panthers again in Week 18. That should be 3 easy wins at the very last bit of your schedule there. I have the Buccaneers going 14-3, which for the record is tied with the Kansas City Chiefs for the best one in the NFL. All right, the Saints already have it 4-4. They opened the season with a loss to the Green Bay Packers before defeating the Carolina Panthers in Week 2, beating the Patriots in Week 3, beating the Giants in Week 4, losing to the Washington football team in Week 5. I can see that being a very high turnover game for Jameis Winston. That or the Giants game, honestly, could both be high turnover games. Week 6 is their bye week. They're going to lose to Seattle in Week 7, lose to Tampa Bay in Week 8, beat the Falcons, in Week 9, lose to the Titans in Week 10, beat the Eagles in Week 11, lose to the Bills in Week 12. I'm going to have them beat the Dallas Cowboys in Week 13. I think that could be a bit of a toss-up game, though. Beat the Jets in Week 14, beat the Buccaneers and have that split in Week 15, beat the Dolphins in our toss-up game potentially in Week 16. I'm going to have them finish the year on basically a very hot streak. They're going to win their final 6 games by beating the Carolina Panthers in Week 17 and the Falcons in Week 18. So that's actually 5 wins. 5 wins at the very back end of their schedule. No, that is 6 wins. I can't count today. They have 6 wins here at the very back end of their schedule. They are 11-6 on the season. That's actually better than I thought they would be based on everything. But now we know Jameis Winston is starting. And again, this will come down to how good is Jameis Winston. Now we know Winston is starting. I could definitely see them getting into the playoffs again this year. Although there are definitely 2 swing games here that are pretty obvious. You could definitely lose to the Buccaneers in Week 15. And you definitely lose to the Dolphins in Week 16, which would drop you down to 9-8. Which I think that would be more along the lines of expectations for the Saints this year. It'd be right around 500. Not that you can be 500 anymore, unless you tie. The Falcons, I had them starting off 1-9. So not a hot start. But they get the Eagles in Week 1. So they get to start with a 1-game winning streak by beating Philadelphia in Week 1. They lose to Tampa Bay in Week 2. I'll have them beat the Giants actually in Week 3 before losing to Washington in Week 4. They beat the other New York team, the Jets, in Week 5. They have their bye week very early this year. Week 6. Then Week 7, off the bye, they lose to the Dolphins. They're going to win their initial matchup at home against Carolina in Week 8. Lose to the Saints in Week 9. Lose to Dallas in Week 10. Lose to the Pats in Week 11. I give the Jacksonville Jaguars a win here in Week 12. The Jacksonville Jaguars, by the way, are 3-14 in my predictions. So I have Jacksonville winning in Week 12. Tampa Bay beating Atlanta in Week 13. I'm going to give Atlanta the sweep over the Panthers. I was really debating this. I really thought I was going to give the Panthers a win here. I'm actually going to give Atlanta the sweep. So I have to 5-11 currently. Week 15, they're going to go on a bit of a hot streak here. They're going to beat the San Francisco 49ers in Week 15 before losing epically to the Detroit Lions in Week 16, losing to the Bills in Week 17, and losing to the Saints in Week 18. They finished the year 6-11. The Falcons, for me, are just kind of in the middle of the road right now. They have a veteran quarterback who's still talented. They have Calvin Ridley. They have Kyle Pitts. They still have some very talented pieces. Chris Lindstrom up front. It's just they're in the middle of the road right now between rebuilding and contending. So 6-11, I could see them getting 8 wins. I think 8 wins are probably their top. They could definitely beat Jacksonville. They could definitely beat Detroit. That would put them up to 8 wins already. They could beat Dallas, depending on how Dallas is looking. So I think 9 wins actually would probably be the cap. In Carolina, I already have Carolina at 1-11 to start the year. So basically, I'm not buying into Sam Darnold, you can tell. I have the Jets winning against Carolina in week 1, the Saints winning week 2, Carolina beats Houston in week 3, loses to Dallas in week 4, beats the Eagles in week 5. This Eagles record, by the way, is going to be terrible. Loses to Minnesota in week 6. I'm going to have them lose to the Giants in week 7, lose to the Falcons in week 8, lose to the Patriots in week 9. I'm going to give them a win over the Cardinals in week 10 before they lose to the Washington football team in week 11. They lose to the Dolphins in week 12. They have their bye week in week 13. They lose to Atlanta again. Then they lose to the Bills. Then they lose to the Bucs in week 16, lose to the Saints in week 17, and lose to the Bucs in week 18, putting them at 3-14, which ties them for the second worst record in the NFL, along with the New York Jets and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I could see them winning 5 games there. I could definitely see them flipping the one against the Jets in week 1. You could definitely flip the one against the Giants in week 7. And I could flip either of the Falcons games, honestly. So maybe they cap out at 7 wins, probably is their top, I would say, for Carolina. The Washington football team, I already had them at 8-2. I love their defense. I'm going to have Washington start with 2 wins, one against the Chargers in week 1, and then beating the Giants in week 2 before losing to the Buffalo Bills in week 3. They beat Atlanta in week 4. They beat the Saints in week 5. They lose to the Chiefs in week 6. I'm going to have them beat the Packers in week 7, beat the Broncos in week 8, beat the Bucs in week 10 after a bye week in week 9. So I have them winning a lot of these really tough games against premier teams like the Packers and the Bucs, which could really change. That could definitely flip and make the schedule a lot worse for Washington. Week 11, they're going to beat the Panthers. They're going to lose to Seattle in week 12. They're going to beat the Raiders in week 13. They're going to beat Dallas at home in Washington in week 14, beat Philadelphia in week 15. They're going to split with Dallas, lose to Dallas in week 16 at Dallas. They're going to beat Philadelphia in week 17. And in week 18, they are going to lose to the New York Giants, putting them at 12-5. I think they could definitely flip some of these games. They could definitely lose to the Packers or the Broncos or the Bucs. So you could give them all those games back. You could flip it around and say they're actually a 9-18. They could even lose to the Chargers, honestly, in week 1 and really flip around being 8-19. But I choose to favor Washington for now in a bunch of games. I don't think they're actually going to be 12-5. It kind of worked out in this exercise that ended up being that way. I think I had to put money on the line. I would say probably closer to 9 or 10 wins than 12. Dallas is 5-7. They opened the year with 2 losses in a row. One to the Bucs, one to the Chargers before beating the Eagles in week 3, beating the Panthers in week 4. They're going to lose to the Giants in week. I'm going to actually split this. They're going to beat the Giants in week 5, which is at home in Dallas. They're going to lose to the Patriots in week 6. They have their bye week in week 7. They're going to beat Minnesota in week 8, lose to Denver in week 9, beat Atlanta in week 10, lose to Kansas City in week 11, beat the Raiders in week 12, lose to the Saints in week 13, lose to the Washington football team in week 14, lose to the Giants at New York in week 15, beat Washington in week 16 before losing to the Cardinals in week 17, and then beating the Philadelphia Eagles in week 18. They're going to finish the year 8-9. I could see them going 9-8. I think they could beat Arizona definitely on the schedule. They could probably beat New York as well, which would put them at 10 wins. There would be 10-7. That's probably about where I think Dallas caps out for the year. New York's 5-9 going into his predictions. I had them opening the year with a loss to the Broncos, a loss to the Washington football team, 4 losses in a row actually, a loss in week 3 to Atlanta, a loss to the Saints in week 4, and a loss to the Dallas Cowboys in week 5. And they have the Rams in week 6, which is going to be a win for the Rams. The New York Giants finally get their first win in week 7 against Carolina. And they lose to the Chiefs. Then lose to the Raiders in week 9. Have a bye week in week 10. Lose to the Bucs in week 11. They're going to beat the Eagles in week 12. And they're going to get a hot streak here. Beat the Eagles in week 12. Beat the Dolphins in week 13. Beat the Chargers in week 14. Beat Dallas in week 15. Beat the Eagles in week 16. Lose to Chicago in week 17. And lose to Washington in the final week of the year, which is going to bring them to 7-10 for the season. Actually, I want to see, did I have Washington win in both games? No, I had a split right. So 7-10, but the split with Washington and a split with Dallas and a sweep of the Eagles seems fair to me. Based on what we've seen from Daniel Jones so far, I'm not predicting a Josh Allen type leap this year. I think they could get to 9 wins. I think they could definitely go out and pick up a win over the Raiders in week 9. They could get a win over Denver in week 1. They could definitely beat Atlanta in week 3. And they could really beat, honestly, they could beat Washington both times. They could beat Dallas both times. But if I was to do that, I would definitely have them losing to Miami or losing to the Chargers then. Either way, I think they're going to be right around 500, within a game or so of 500. And the Eagles, I have at 0-16 already, so they have to win this one game no matter what. I'm not having a team go 0-17. They're going to go 1-16. They're going to lose to Atlanta in week 1. Their one win's going to be against the San Francisco 49ers in week 2. They're going to lose to Dallas in week 3, lose to the Chiefs in week 4, lose to the Panthers in week 5, lose to the Bucs week 6, the Raiders week 7, Lions week 8, Chargers week 9, Denver week 10, New Orleans week 11, the Giants again in week 12, the Jets in week 13, bye week in week 14, lose to Washington in week 15, lose to the Giants in week 16, lose to Washington again in week 17, and then lose to Dallas in week 18. And the Eagles have some good players. They have Brandon Graham, they have Fletcher Cox, they have Devonta Smith, who I'm expecting a lot from this year. They have Zach Ertz, who I think will rebound this year. Maybe not be as good as he used to be, but still be a good player, along with Dallas Goedert. I'm still waiting for a Miles Sanders breakout year. It's going to happen eventually. Brandon Brooks is coming back from injury. Lane Johnson's coming back from injury. Jason Kelsey's probably going to play in his final season here. They have good players. I just don't think they have an effective team. When I look around the rest of the league, there's something in particular every other team does better than Philadelphia. Philadelphia doesn't have a specialty they're really good in. I just don't know what to expect from Jalen Hurts right now. So I have the Eagles having the worst record in the NFL at 1-16. And now for our final division, the NFC West, I have the Rams already at 11-0 going into the this prediction based on our previous decisions. The Rams beat the Bears in week 1. They beat the Colts in week 2. They beat the Buccaneers in week 3. I'm going to have them beat Arizona at Los Angeles in week 4. Lose to Seattle at Seattle in week 5. They're going to beat the Giants in week 6. They're going to beat the Lions in week 7. They're going to beat the Texans in week 8. They're going to beat the Tennessee Titans in week 9. I'm going to have them lose to the San Francisco 49ers at San Francisco in week 10. They have their bye week in week 11. They're going to beat the Packers off that bye week in week 12. They're going to beat the Jaguars in week 13. I'm going to have them lose to Arizona at Arizona in week 14. They'll beat the Seahawks at Los Angeles in week 15. They're going to beat the Vikings in week 16. Beat the Ravens in week 17. And then they're going to beat the 49ers in week 18. Which brings them to 14-3, tying them for the best record in the NFL with the Kansas City Chiefs and with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What could change here? Well, they definitely could lose to the Buccaneers in week 3, in which case the Bucs will have the best record in the NFL. They could lose to the Giants in week 6. That'd be a little bit of a sneaky game. They could lose to the Titans in week 9. And they could lose to Green Bay in week 12. Either way, I don't see them dipping below 10 wins this year. They're definitely going to be a 10-win team. I think they're definitely going to be a playoff team. It really comes down to what their record's going to be within the division. I could see them sweeping Arizona, but they're not going to sweep Seattle. I just don't think it's going to happen. They always play Seattle too close. So I think Seattle is going to get one. And I really think the 49ers, based on how their quarterback play works out, could definitely get one as well. But the NFC West is always just so insane with the interdivision competition. All right, next up, Seattle. I have Seattle starting off 11-2 based on our previous decisions. The Seahawks are going to win week 1 against the Colts. They're going to lose week 2 against the Titans. They're going to win week 3 against the Vikings. I'm going to have them lose to the San Francisco 49ers in week 4 at San Francisco. They're going to beat the Rams at Seattle in week 5, beat Pittsburgh week 6, beat the Saints in week 7, beat the Jags in week 8. They're going to go on their bye week in week 9, come off that bye week, and beat the Green Bay Packers in week 10 at Green Bay before beating the Arizona Cardinals home in week 11, beating the Washington football team in week 12. They are going to beat the San Francisco 49ers in a revenge game in week 13, which brings up to 13 wins. Jeez, I'm not very high this year. They're going to beat Houston Texans in week 14. They're going to lose to the Rams in week 15, beat the Bears in week 16, beat the Lions in week 17, before losing to the Cardinals at Arizona in week 18 for a grand total of 13 wins. It puts them one win behind the Los Angeles Rams for the division lead. And, of course, they are 7-1 at home. You know, Seattle has quite a big advantage for the 12th man there. What's their one home loss this year? It's against what's their one home loss this year? It's against the Tennessee Titans. Yeah, I could see that happening, definitely. So Derrick Henry. I like Seattle. I don't know if I like them 13 wins that much. I don't think I like 13 wins Seattle Seahawks. I would definitely go for 11 to 12. Make a lot of sense. I could see the Rams game potentially flipping, but like I said, it's going to be hard for either team to sweep the other one, just how close they play each other. Maybe Pittsburgh in week 6 could flip. I could see New Orleans in week 7 or Green Bay in week 10 flipping. Washington in week 12, perhaps. Even Chicago. Like Chicago week 16 could be a sneaky game for the Bears. But I don't see Seattle missing the playoffs this year. They're going to make the playoffs. The 49ers have them starting at 8-7 with a win over Detroit in week 1, a loss to Philadelphia in week 2, a win over Green Bay in week 3, win over Seattle week 4. I'm going to give them a win over Arizona in week 5. And their bye week in week 6 is very early in the year. They're going to lose to the Colts in week 7, lose to the Bears in week 8, beat Arizona again, sweep the Cardinals in week 9. They're going to beat the Rams in week 10 at San Francisco. They're going to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars at Jacksonville in week 11. They're going to beat the Vikings in week 12, lose to Seattle in week 13, beat the Bengals in week 14, lose to Atlanta in week 15, lose to Tennessee in week 16, beat the Texans in week 17, lose to the Rams in week 18, which brings them up to 10-7 on the year. I can definitely see it happen. It's a fairly reasonable outcome for a team that has some very good pieces. I just don't know if they have necessarily the depth at every position they need, nor do they have the outstanding quarterback that I think could really help them get over the top in the NFC West, which has Stafford, has Russell Wilson. Don't know what Kyler Murray is going to be yet, but he's already a decent quarterback. He's probably arguably already better than Jimmy Garoppolo, in my opinion. But speaking of Arizona, I have them starting 7-10. Oh, wait, we've already done all the games. I have them at 7-10. And that's where I think Arizona's going to be. I don't think Arizona will make the playoffs this year. I think they're going to be close to that 500 mark within a game or two of it, or within a game or two of 8-9, I should say, or 9-8, whichever one you want to go for. Arizona's record looks like this because they're going to lose to the Titans in week 1, lose to the Vikings in week 2, beat Jacksonville in week 3, lose to the Rams in week 4, lose to the 49ers in week 5, lose to the Browns in week 6, beat the Texans in week 7, lose to Green Bay in week 8, lose to the 49ers again in week 9, lose to the Panthers in week 10, and lose to Seattle in week 11. We're going on their bye week and coming off the bye week strong, beating Chicago in week 13, beating the Rams in week 14, beating the Lions in week 15, losing to the Colts in week 16, and then winning their final 2 games against Dallas in week 17 and Seattle in week 18. And if you're 7-10 and you finish winning 5 of your final 6 games, is that enough to save Cliff Kingsbury's job? I don't really know. Well, I do know that I don't feel confident in Arizona making the playoffs this year, just based on their own competition within the division. So who's going to make the playoffs in the NFC? Well, let's go through each division. Just give you the record. Green Bay in the NFC North, 13-4. Minnesota, 7-10. Chicago, 5-12. Lions, 2-15. The NFC South, Buccaneers, 14-3. Saints, 11-6. Falcons, 6-11. Panthers, 3-14. So Sam Darnold experience obviously doesn't work out very well for them. NFC East, Washington, 12-5. Dallas, 8-9. New York, 7-10. Philadelphia, 1-16. And then the NFC West, the Rams are 14-3. Seahawks are 13-4. 49ers are 10-7. Arizona Cardinals are 7-10. And the teams that make the playoffs, well, the Rams are the 1 seed apparently at 14-3. That means the Bucs are the second seed at 14-3 as well. The 3rd seed is the Green Bay Packers at 13-4. The 4th seed, Washington at 12-5. The 5th seed is going to be Seattle at 13-4. 6th seed is going to be the Saints at 11-6. And the 7th seed is going to be the San Francisco 49ers at 10-7. So which division do I think is going to be more top-heavy, or which conference is going to be more top-heavy? It's going to be the AFC. I had the AFC putting out more 10-win teams than the NFC. If you win 10 games in the NFC right now, you're in my prediction. But you can win 11 games like Denver did in my prediction on the AFC side and still not get in. I have an 11-win team in Denver not getting in. I have a 10-win team in Miami not getting in. I have a 9-win team in Indy and a 9-win team in Pittsburgh not getting in. And if we flip over to the NFC side, the team with the most wins not getting to the playoffs this year is the 8-win Dallas Cowboys team. And they're the only 8-win team that didn't get it. Everyone else Minnesota, the Giants, and the Cardinals all have 7 wins, and they're not in. So the AFC to me is definitely going to be the stronger conference this year, even though I think that the NFC has some of the best title contenders. You got on the AFC side, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, the Cleveland Browns. I have all 3 of those teams winning their divisions. Those are definitely title contenders in my opinion. On the other side, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, the Rams. So I guess they both have 3 elite teams in my opinion. And I have those 3 teams that I mentioned from the NFC winning their divisions as well. So what will the playoffs look like? That's a good question. Can I actually fast forward to the playoffs here? I really didn't look ahead to see if I could. Yeah, wild card round will be the Chargers versus the Titans on the AFC side, the Ravens versus the Browns, and the Patriots versus the Bills. The team that gets the bye is going to be Kansas City. On the NFC side, you got the Seahawks, the 5-seed Seahawks versus the 4-seed Washington football team, 6-seed Saints versus the 3-seed Packers, and the 7-seed 49ers versus the 2-seed Buccaneers, with the Los Angeles Rams getting the bye week. And because we still have some time here, I'm actually going to go through the playoffs and the predictions here. I'm going to have the Chargers beating the Titans. No, I'm not. I'm going to have the Titans beating the Chargers on the AFC side in the wild card weekend. I'm going to have the Ravens upsetting the Browns. I'm going to have the Bills beating the Patriots. On the NFC side, I'm going to have Seattle beat the Washington football team. Packers beat the Saints. And I'm going to have the Bucs beat the 49ers, which takes us to the next week, the divisional round. Right, it's Bills versus Titans. I'm going to take the Bills. And Ravens versus Chiefs, I'm going to take the Chiefs. We're going to have a rematch of the AFC Championship game from this past year. And on the other side, Green Bay versus Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay takes over Green Bay for the 2nd time in a row. And then Seattle versus the Rams. I'm going to take the Rams in that matchup. Although that'd be a fantastic game, by the way. I would love to see that. All right. Conference championship games. I'm going to have Kansas City, and I'm going to have the Rams this time. Oh, wait, hang on. So I'm going to have the Chiefs beat the Bills. I'm fully in agreement that's going to happen. I just don't think the Bills will beat the Chiefs. There's one team they can't figure out right now. I have the Rams beating the Buccaneers during the regular season, which makes me really worried to pick them again. I don't think they'll win twice or 2 times in one season. Well, this is no fun. I'm going to have the Buccaneers face the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And this time around, I'm actually going to pick the Bucs. I infamously said the Buccaneers would probably win the Super Bowl because they have better offensive line and better defense than Kansas City on a podcast that was on a couple months ago. But I went with the Chiefs anyways. I picked the Chiefs anyways. And, of course, the Bucs won because they have the better defense and better offensive line. But I'm going to rectify that this time around. I'm going to pick the Bucs to repeat as Super Bowl champs, even though I know that's highly unlikely, which means it's definitely not going to happen. So, ultimately, we're going to be wrong here. But I'm going to pick the Bucs anyways. It's just where my logic took me for the year. So this is kind of a spontaneous little process where I've gone through, picked the games as they've shown up. I've gone through the records. I've gone through the playoffs for you now. Make sure to complain to me about anything or tell me about anything you want in the comment section. If this is on YouTube, if it's not, if it's on Apple Podcasts, you can go follow me at Sam_Teets33 on Twitter. You can complain to me there. Or you can also go find me on YouTube, just Sam Teets. Like I said, I'm the only one out there like that. So you can find me, find the video, and leave a comment down below. I will definitely get the notification and check that out later. But for now, thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Sam Teets. I hope to give you a better episode and a cleaner episode in the future. But thank you for listening for today. Have a good one.